Texas, the Lone Star State, home to many fantastic amusement parks with some of the best coasters out there. For it being the second biggest state, it ought to have some of the best parks, and that is for sure the case, as you can look to the two Six Flags parks, SeaWorld, their boardwalks, and much more. But today, we are not talking about the parks, we're talking about the coasters, ranking them from 10 to 1, all of them being some great rides that even could make people's top 25. Now, of course, before I get into the list, I want to make myself clear that these are, my opinions to where you may not agree with my rankings. If you are new to the channel, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more videos on coasters often, as every single one of you helps the channel out tremendously. Also, if you want to see more, make sure to follow my Insta page for updates and much more, but now that is all said and done, let's jump in. Starting out at the number 10 spot, we have Goliath, the Batman the Ride clone, located at Six Flags Fiesta, Texas. This is, in my opinion, on the higher level of Batman clones, as over my past visits to Fiesta, I've really just realized on how much of a love I have for this coaster, even though it can still be very easily forgotten. In that layout, it packs in some whippy transitions, but most of all, intensity, especially in that first loop and of course Spaghetti Bowl. To even think that it was relocated to Fiesta from Six Flags New Orleans just wows me on how it could be mostly all the time pretty smooth and just such an enjoyable coaster. The only hyper coaster in Texas is taking the number 9 spot, that is Titan, a Giovanola hyper that really only has one thing that puts it up at this spot. That is the pure intensity of this thing, as those two helixes that pull so much G-force to where you can almost black out, it is that much. Other than that, though it may have some fantastic stats on its side, being 245 feet tall, it can, in so many moments, just have a bland layout, especially the part that everybody talks about, the mid-course brake run. I get that if it did not slow you down as much as it does, most riders would probably black out through that second helix, which again makes sense, but will forever be known as a major buzzkill. The last B&M you will see on this list is Superman Escape from Krypton, a floorless that is known to many enthusiasts as one of the best. I definitely can agree with that statement, as it is always battling for that number 1 spot as my favorite B&M floorless against Kraken at SeaWorld Orlando. This coaster mixes in some fantastic inversions while also interacting with the quarry wall, such as that great drop and helix right on top of it. However, there is a little bit of a rattle, but if you get past the fact, you can find yourself really having a great ride on this coaster. As we head to the number 7 spot, we have the first wooden coaster to make the list, that is Switchback, located at ZDT's The Very Tiny Park in Seguin, Texas. What's really unique about this coaster is that it's not a full circuit, it has a switch track and has some super nice elements. You go forwards and backwards, packing in lots of airtime moments that can be pretty strong, especially in the back seat. The airtime is for sure full ejector, as there can even be some ejector spots that will really jolt you out of your seat from that back row. It's just so creative on how they fit this much of a coaster into the almost no space they had, which is the reason why it is taking this spot. Just barely edging out Switchback is Steel Eel, and yes, it's actually not a hyper, but it sure does feel like one. There's all the similarities, such as in the first half when you have, those big floater hills to where when you lose speed you transitioned into some smaller hills. And that leads to where I think this coaster gets complained about too much. That is that there's no airtime in the second half, to where I can completely disagree. Of course, it's no Magnum, but can still have you out of your seat, being no exception to the rest of the ride. The other top 2 coaster at SeaWorld San Antonio is of course Texas Stingray, the GCI Woody at the number 5 spot. This really combines everything GCI does great with their coasters, such as the turns, tiny but sudden airtime pops, and a great layout. It even has a little bit of theming, like some country music going up that lift hill, which makes it such a cool and enjoyable ride experience, especially on a hot Texan summer day. So the first RMC of this list was actually the first ever RMC, taking the number 4 spot, that is the New Texas Giants. Looking at this coaster, yes, of course, it is not as good as some of the newer RMCs, but you know, what do you expect? It was the prototype leading to all the other masterful RMC creations. It's very graceful, you could almost say, in those elements that are mainly bank turns and some airtime moments, which they definitely deliver. Of course, it's a super long ride and for sure the best coaster at Six Flags Over Texas, adding to the already stacked list of coasters in the state of Texas. Kicking off the top 3 is Wonder Woman Golden Lasso Coaster, located at Six Flags Fiesta, Texas. Every single time you get off that ride, you are speechless to what has just happened. You fly through that layout. The whole ride just goes by in an instant, packing in some of the strongest and out of control airtime moments you will probably ever experience. Also, it's super intense, as the whole ride experience may be short, though the biggest downside, it is still by far one of the most out of control coasters pretty much in the world. As we head to the number 2 spot, we have a coaster that is one of the most hidden gems out there. That is Boardwalk Bullet, the Gravity Group Woody on a boardwalk. What makes this the almost perfect wooden coaster is how much the ride fits in the space they had. It is pretty much one of, if not the most compact wooden coaster in the world. You are always traveling over and under, weaving through the structure at a very fast pace, filled with great intensity and some fantastic ejector. It even feels like a long ride, which is just crazy for that space they had and the insaneness of a coaster they made. That is why it is ranked so high. So of course, taking that number 1 best coaster in Texas is Iron Rattler, the quarry wall dive-in RMC located at Six Flags Fiesta, Texas. You will never be able to put into words on how incredible that first drop and dive off the quarry wall in the backseat is. It is absolutely surreal. You also have that fantastic 0G roll, other great airtime moments, and of course the night rides, especially last start of the night fireworks. That is an experience, definitely, for sure. It interacting with the quarry wall gave that layout so much potential, and no doubt that they capitalized with one of the best hybrid coasters in the world. So that'll wrap up this list of the best coasters in Texas, but I want to hear what you think. Make sure to post that in the comments below. I read every comment, love what you guys have to say. And of course, if you're not already, make sure to subscribe for more videos on coasters often. And see ya.